with that being said, are the Mavs pretenders or contenders?
I think that they're pretenders, and not because Luka isn't fantastic, not because Kyrie Irving isn't a great off-ball number two. I think that they're pretenders because of the way that offense is and what Luka has to do. I said this earlier when I was talking to Bob, and I said this when I was talking to the fellas. In 2008, 2009, LeBron James led the Cleveland Cavaliers in points, assists, rebounds, blocks, and steals. He was fantastic. And he was elite on the other side of the basketball. I think he finished second that year in Defensive Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken. He finished second that year in Defensive Player of the Year. As much as I marveled in how awesome he was, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, why does he have to do this much in order for us to win? He should not have to do that much in order for us to win. So when I look at Luka and I look at how Luka sets everybody else up, how he sets the table, guys like Gafford, PJ Washington looks a lot better in that offense.
Oh, man, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, he looks way better in that offense than he did in Charlotte. Way better. The fact that he could get off the basketball and go to Irv the way he does and basically take a step back, I see him doing that. The difference is that he doesn't do that enough. How many 45, 14, and 9 games do I have to see, J-Rob? How many 39, 20, and 8 games do I need to see? He should not have to do as much as he's doing in order for them to have a chance to win. And what's going to happen is when you got a guy doing that much, once playoff time comes, teams key on that. So what they do is they do their best to slow everybody else down. The guy that I equated to is Jordan. There's a reason why the Bulls weren't winning early, because Jordan was doing everything that Jordan was doing. The reason why the Cavs weren't winning, because James was doing everything that James was doing. We're going to slow everybody else down, and we're going to give you the basketball, and we're going to make you beat us. And I think that Kevin Garnett made it clear. You could be better than me. You could even be better than me and him. You ain't better than all of us. That's just not the way that that's going to work. And with Luka, it's almost like the offense is conducive to him having to be better than everybody else. He's the primary ball handler. The offense runs through him. Everything they do is because of him. His usage rate is, I think it's right around where it normally is. I would like to see Luka, more than anything, change a bit of his game and not just be more of a distributor, be less of a scorer, be more of a playmaker, and not only allow these other guys to do more, make these dudes do more. Miami proved that with Bam. Him becoming a 20 and 10 guy instead of giving up on him. Make these guys do that. The Chicago Bulls, make Scottie Pippen get better. Make Horace Grant get better. Make these other guys get better instead of putting guys around Luka who are just conducive to his game, because that's not a winning recipe. That's not a recipe for winning. Get him some continuity, right? Get him some guys that he's going to be around for a while and demand that these guys get better, because what he's doing, it's not a recipe for winning. It's too much that he has to do in order for those guys to win. And I just don't see it happening.
All right. On my end, I got them as contenders. And I'm going to tell you why. For the first 7, to me, from this first 7 years of an NBA career, I think Luka's the best offensive player I've ever seen. And to start an NBA career. And when I look at the playoffs, I've already seen Luka Doncic. Like, I will never be able to get the mind of how he outscored Phoenix and just took over a game and just said, this thing is done in the first half of basketball. When I look at his ability, it was over.
It was 40 at the half.
He took their soul in a half of basketball. It was one of the craziest performances I've ever seen. And I know and I understand where you're coming from, that he has to set the table for multiple players. But to be honest, that's why I think they're contenders. Because I think if I have Luka Doncic dictating the terms of a basketball game, I think I have a great shot to win every basketball game.
Right.
If I can, and this is my thing, I look at a Pascal Siakam. At first, I wanted the Mavericks to bring in a Pascal Siakam. I thought he'd be a great third option to fit around Kyrie and Luka. Seeing Gafford and PJ get thrown into the mix as just pieces they like toys for Luka, like a quarterback getting new wide receivers. Like a quarterback getting new wide receivers. That's what Luka Doncic feels like with them new big men that he got. And Derek Lively. Patrick Mahomes with a bunch of toys. And so I look at Luka Doncic with those guys. He completely has his hands all over the game. And I think him having Kyrie Irving now is the perfect counter punch. It's like being a great sword fighter in a video game and then having a nice little pocket knife right in your boot, just so every time I give you this jab that you can't see coming, every time with Kyrie Irving. And I think because of how great Kyrie Irving is, and I'm gonna be honest, Chill, it's amazing to see that even at this age, his game is aging gracefully in the NBA. Even at this stage, he is still one, I think, the most premier and complete offensive players in the game. And no matter what, because of what Kyrie is, he has the ability to he can close a game out just as well as Luka can for you because of how insane his offensive bag is.
Matter of fact, they went to him last night.
Exactly. And so because he takes so much stress off a player who can dominate a basketball game to the level of what Luka Doncic can. I don't think I could look at them as a pretender because I don't think I'm gonna say this. I don't think they're a favorite.
Right.
But I'm gonna be honest, Chill. If the Dallas Mavericks were in the finals, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, on the logic, you say you got them as pretenders?
Yes.
Nah, I disagree. I think they're contenders because, for one, this is the best lineup we've ever seen Luka with. And we've already seen that man go to a Western Conference Finals. I'm gonna be honest with you. I agree with J-Rob. The talent that this man has, I do agree that you can't just 1v5 a team, but we've seen him do more with less. And he has pieces around him that complement him almost perfectly. He has lob threats, he has shooters, he has a secondary option. On top of the fact, I'm not going to say they're finals winners this year, but
what exactly is a contender? Before you go any further, what exactly is a contender to you?
I'm going to call them contenders before I call them pretenders too.
What's the ceiling for this Dallas Mavericks team today? What is the ceiling for this team?
For the ceiling is the finals.
So you think they could get to the NBA finals?
They could. If everything goes right, they can go to the finals. But me personally, I think they're like if it's just like a neutral setting, they're probably a second round, maybe Western Conference Finals thing. But I think they can make the finals. For me to call them a pretender, that would be me saying they're like a first round exit, and I just don't see that.
I don't think that's the same thing at all.
Nah, that's not the same. Yeah, that's not.
So what's a pretender to y'all?
A pretender is somebody that's considered making the playoffs and making a deep run, and they don't even make the playoffs, and they're not in contention to win it. I don't think the Dallas Mavericks are in contention to win the NBA championship. That's what a contender is. That's number one. Number two, when you look at the lineups in the Western Conference, sure, Luka is fantastic, but do they have other pieces that can be neutralized where now Luka has to do everything? Don't sit there and act like we haven't seen Kyrie Irving in the playoffs go to pieces. When you have a team where one guy is doing that much, it's a lot less difficult to neutralize him, and it's easier to neutralize everybody else, like Gafford, like PJ Washington, like Kleber. It's easier to slow the rest of those guys down and make Luka do everything like he's already been doing, which we've seen in the past. That is not conducive to winning. So when you get into a 7-game series with the Minnesota Timberwolves, you get into a 7-game series with the Denver Nuggets or the Los Angeles Clippers, teams that actually play defense and can neutralize those other guys, and the stage is bigger, then you see something completely different than what you're seeing right now. Is Luka fantastic? Yes. But I think that the way that roster is constructed, you can neutralize those other guys and slow the rest of them down. And I don't think Luka could beat us by himself. James couldn't do it. Jordan couldn't do it. None of those dudes could do it.
I think that's true when it comes to, you said neutralizing the other players. I think that's true when it comes to, neutralizing them from another standpoint. I genuinely think Luka is an offensive player of the caliber. He can make any pass on the court. If your game plan is let Luka run free and neutralize the other threats, you're expecting 60. Easy. I'm gonna be honest with you. If the threat is double team him and his other players are going to have to hit those shots, he has players that can hit those shots.
That's not the game plan, though. That is not for guys like Luka.
So you want him to get 60?
Let me ask you a question. What was the game plan for Joker? Let Joker get 50.
Yeah.
And they lose.
Yeah, they're cool letting him score.
And we slow everybody else down. That was the logic with Joker. Let him get 50 and we'll slow everybody else down.
Right.
When that happens, that completely takes away from everything else they're doing. When you look at when you look at that Dallas Maverick team, and let's also not forget that Luka is another one of those guys that gets hunted. It ain't like Luka is. It's not like Luka is dropping down in a chair and slowing anybody down. They're going after Luka too defensively, and Luka wants to get back to the basketball. So now we got a guy who's suspect on defense, and we're gonna slow everybody else down. We could smoke these dudes in a 5-game series.
5 is crazy, but I will agree on you on the defensive aspect. Spo said it best. You're not gonna get far if your best player can't play defense, or if you can pick on a best player. I was going to say I feel like that's going to be the deciding factor on this team. The fact that he's actually showing an effort to play defense on this team works wonders, but it boosts this team in my opinion. The fact that you can't pick on Luka, the fact that as much as people like to disrespect Kyrie, he's not that bad of a defender. He's just small. I just think the team as a unit isn't that good defensively.
How about that? So not only are they not as good defensively, offensively, their engine, the guy who's holding the basketball, who's doing the most, they're going to slow down everybody else. So instead of us jumping you, we know how good you are. We're going to jump your crew, and we're going to make you beat us. That's a recipe for disaster. I don't care when they play Phoenix, whether it's the first round or if they end up making it to the Western semifinals, I think that they definitely can beat them. Now, when you got other teams that can scheme against Luka and can match the front line, that can match their wing players, and has defenders that can slow those other guys down, and they can make Luka beat them, then I think that they have a huge problem. For example, Denver. Because now you got a guy in Luka, as good as he is, he's got a guy in Joker who can match all of his production. Not some of it. He's got a guy who can match all of his production. Add that to the fact that we got frontline guys that can slow down your guys. That's a recipe for disaster for the Dallas Mavericks.